Okay. Hi, everyone. So as said, I'm Vincent. I'm a gameplay developer at Voodoo. It's been now 2 years and a half that I'm here. And I'm here to tell you about production optimization, production time optimization, and pretty much like all the big mistakes we made during this time and like what you should avoid. This may be like very obvious ones for like the most experienced, but it's still always very interesting to talk about. So when we make prototypes, we generally have two different phases, which are like our ideation phase, which is generally a few days before, generally also working on another prototype, and it's pretty much like getting the base concept, playing other games, and ensuring like we have a strong idea for gameplay, and then the development phase. Although it used to work quite well, recently with all the new competitors and the market being more and more aggressive, we found out that spending so much time on developing an idea and not spending enough time on ideation didn't go well, and we needed more time to focus on the idea before being able to take time developing it and only work on good ideas, or ideas at least we found were interesting. So we wanted to go to that kind of places. And how to do that? Well, our main idea was to reduce the development time. So the three main things we wanted to do to reduce our development time were based on like three big mistakes we did. And I'm going to show you those mistakes. First one was content. Pretty much telling myself, like in my runner, if I had like 10,000 new obstacles, if I had like in my puzzle 200 levels, it will obviously increase like a rocket my KPI, and it will be as good as possible. We had that case, a game called Plug It. We did it like a year and a half ago. And it was really simple. You had that wire, you had to connect it to every single red thingy, and then plug it to your bulb, just so it would light it up. So very simple. The idea was done in a week, and we were like quite happy with this rope mechanic, which at that time hadn't been seen. And we had both a good CPI. Shit. You didn't see that, no? Yeah. So a good CPI and kind of good retention for what we had. So we had only 10 levels. People were playing them all over again, and yet we had 46 day one. So we were like, man, they gotta be either dumb or really like the core mechanic. So we thought they really like the core mechanic. And we were like, we're gonna bring diversity to that. So we, like the very first thing we wanted to do for iteration was just add a shit ton of levels, like a lot. We spent a lot of time on that, and we didn't even think about adding, like changing the core gameplay, because we thought like with those 10 levels, they played a lot. So we had a total of 200 levels, and not that much of an increase in KPIs. Like our CPI was still the same, but yet after one more week of work, we'd expect way more. And we learned the hard way that people don't really play the game to discover new things, or at least not this one. It wasn't really based on discovery, but more in the feeling of the rope, and we clearly didn't play on that during that iteration. So we had pretty much the same KPI, and as we didn't have any more ideas on what to bring to the game to have it more satisfying or more interesting, we had to let it go, and we learned that really good thing that spending a week on just content is not a good thing. What, on the other hand, some other games have done, I'm sure you recognize Roller Splat. So the game has had like some iterations too. Didn't go perfect from the first start, but instead of working on content, they worked on game feeling and like fun in general. And with only 15 levels, they had like really good enough KPIs to make their game a hit, and then work on content and ensure like their core was really fun, and they could add some content to that later on. But clearly, the first level, lever to your KPI is gameplay, and it's not content, or at least in a lot portion of games. One point on imagination, you got two ways to make a plane, like mostly two. You can either go there and spend time on making like quite a good looking plane, but it will be a plane and like a specific plane that people will refer to and will like or not like. Or you can just give the idea of a plane, spend way less time doing it, and still have a lot of players feeling like it's a plane, and you won't spend so much time on it, and you will spend more time on the fun of your game. So it's better. Another example to illustrate like very simple can mean a lot. I hope you can recognize most of them. I really hope so. And yet really simple, not too much time on the details. I guess generally a way better way for us to see what we should explain visually in our games. My last point is on meta, because like that's a trap we still tend to fall on. And the thing is, we always think like it will improve a lot my KPIs, my retention mostly, and so that has to be something I have to do on day one. To explain a bit more, what is meta is what is not directly core gameplay. That like all that stuff that will be added later on to add some more interactions with the players, but it's not what they are gonna play at all the time, and like they will add like some small layers of interest in the game, but more on the deeper level. So these we thought were really important because all other games like once released pretty much had them. Like it was standard. Like something I find really interesting. Like you can maybe recognize wood turning that has been on the tops lately, like last month. As much as the gameplay was really interesting, during the launch, the very first months of launch, all the A/B tests were mostly on the core gameplay and trying to make it as good as possible. Whereas like the shop system, which you can see in every single game, has been added only 2 months after the release of the game. And yet the game was really successful, and that, in my opinion, was really the way to do it. Ensure you have a strong base before adding like all those little layers on top. Another example is a well-known Helix Jump that had its first meta features added 4 months after the release of the game. Yet it didn't stop it from being very huge and being one of the big success of this era of hyper-casual in general. So my point would be, try to focus on core gameplay. Like all those 3 points are all based on focus on core gameplay. That's the most important thing, and that pretty much can only be the case in hyper-casual where it's so easy to have competitors and you really have to be as fast as possible.